Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. We did it again.
We're here. I know every week it surprises us. Welcome to Set Phasers.
Yes, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
A highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
It's about as illogical as they come, quite honestly.
Well, we are your hosts, Aki and Steph, here once again to take you through Star Trek Discovery.
Yes.
The first season.
The first season. Today we'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 3, Context is for Kings. Today's episode's star date is 13724.6, just so you know. Those of you keeping track at home.
We are keeping track of it. All right, Aki, should we do one of my favorite things?
If you mean run it down, then yes.
I do.
It's time to run it down. Can you run it down for me? Tell me what just happened. Can you run it down for me? Oh, let's tell you what just happened. Okay, so Season 1, Episode 3. My dad, who listened to our last episode, wanted me to make it clear. Yes, my dad. He had some feedback, and he said, just to make it clear that people are supposed to watch the episode before they listen to the show, which I thought was implicit. But listen, if that's the case, if you haven't seen Episode 3, you should probably watch it before we get into it.
Just hit pause. Go to your TV.
Watch the whole episode and then
3.
Come back, unpause us, and get ready.
It'll all make much more sense.
And then we'll tell you what just happened. Okay, so it begins, as you may recall, last time on Star Trek Discovery, Michael Burnham was court-martialed and sentenced to, I believe, life imprisonment for her mutineering actions and various other things that caused Captain Georgiou to, unfortunately, meet her demise. So we begin with, like a prison carrier or something like that. They're in jumpsuits. And Michael's in like this orangey mustard jumpsuit that Steph hates. I know, because we simul watched, and she was like, "I do not like this mustard jumpsuit." I
do not.
My notes,
ugly.
However, were simply new hair, don't care. And yes, Michael is I don't know. She is making being a prisoner for the rest of your life look like something a Vulcan can do without breaking a sweat. She's just sort of like committed to this idea that she is going to suffer. She's on a ship with 3 other prisoners who are complaining and moaning about now being forced to be in like a prison work crew for the war effort. So we get the idea that this war has been going on now. This war with the Klingons is in full swing. And one of them finds out that she's Michael Burnham and says, my cousin was on the ship that went down and 8,000 people died. And Michael, like a true Vulcan, says, actually 8,186. Wow.
Not to be pedantic.
Not to be pedantic, but I am a Vulcan, so get your numbers right. Get your weight and height up. The ship suffers an attack by some sort of alien bug that eats electricity.
Yep.
And the pilot decides they have to go out, and the prisoners are kind of freaking out. And the pilot has to go out and get rid of the bugs. And Michael is like super creepy, resigned to life in prison. Michael is like, yes, if the bugs eat all the electricity, then we'll float freely in space without any power until we suffocate or freeze to death, whichever comes first. And
super just deadpan with that.
Total Vulcan. Yeah, no emotion. Just like death is going to be hard and painful. But they are miraculous. Oh, after the pilot is seen being brutally whipped away from the ship because their tether broke, like through the view screen in the front, the ship is caught in a tractor beam, and they are being pulled up. And this is where we finally get what we thought we were getting in the first episode. We get that beautiful, beautiful, necessary shot of the ship. We get it from the aft engines and nacelles swinging around. I think I actually wrote, because it has the call number on the back before you're like, know what the ship is called, NCC 1039, and then 1031, and then it swings around to the front, and we find out this is the USS Discovery.
Yep.
Dun,
you get
dun,
that beautiful sort of saucer
dun.
section.
Yes, exactly.
You
And you're
know.
like, Discovery. Oh, that's why it's called Discovery. Smash cut to credits. So that's our cold open. So we get on to the prisoners get into the cargo bay, and the doors open up, and we sort of, through the prisoners talking, because Michael's doing the like stoic thing, get all these sort of details. We find out must be a brand new ship. It's like spotless. The ship is so far from the front lines. Why would it be there? And we are greeted by the stony visage of Commander Landry, who basically calls them all trash. Walks right up to Michael, calls her like a mutineer, and then she says, "We're supposed to feed you animals," and she takes them to the mess, essentially the dining area, where Michael gets her tray of food and is being stared at by everyone who knows who she is.
It's
And
very high school.
It's very high school, but like a little more scary, dangerous. And she runs into I wrote down her name because I can't remember it. Boo hoo.
I've forgotten as well.
I should have written it
Do you want
down.
to Google that?
Yeah, we should probably Google it. You know what to do.
I do.
You can Google that.
Yes, Kayla.
Very
Kayla,
good.
that's her name.
That was a short time frame to Google
Thank
that.
you.
I'm
well,
impressed.
I may or may not have had Discovery up on my phone.
Perfect.
Just in case I forgot something. So Kayla, we remember, was on the bridge of the Shenzhou, and we don't really know what happened to the crew of the Shenzhou, but she's now got I guess she's got some scarring here, and she has like a super cool cybernetic eyepiece around one eye, which I think is great. I really loved it. But she looks at Michael, she stares daggers at Michael, and then gets up and leaves. Michael goes to sit down with the prisoners. Apparently, even the prisoners don't like her. Like, even the prisoners are pro-Federation or something. And they're like, how about we make it 8,187? And then they try to attack Michael. Sadly, they had no idea Michael was trained in Vulcan martial arts. A
They did
true
not.
I Vulcan moment for Michael.
Vulcan.
Because she proceeds to whoop ass.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
Because and Commander Landry's just like, everyone's about, like, there's guns and everything, they're about to get up and help her.
Yeah.
And Commander Landry's like, no.
No.
But it wasn't because she knew that Michael would be fine.
she
She
was
was
like-
just like, let her sort it out herself.
And Michael sorted it out herself,
Oh, she
as
did.
she often does. She can be depended on to do. In any case, thereafter, the fight is interrupted. The fight is interrupted, and the rest of the prisoners are taken to the brig. And Michael is told that the captain wants to see her. She exchanges some unfriendly words with Landry in the it's not an elevator, but that's what I'm calling it. And they get in the elevator. See, they get on the escalator and they exchange some unpleasant words. I have there's so many notes for this episode because so much of the show actually begins here on episode 3. That
Turbo lift. Yes!
It's a turbo lift. Yes.
Sorry,
We didn't
I
even have
blanked on
to-
that too.
If you want to know. So they get to the bridge, the doors open up, and who's in the captain's chair but dun dun dun, Commander Saru. And you're like, oh snap, Saru's the captain, but no, he just looks at her and then turns back around, and then Michael is led right next door to the captain's ready room, which is darkened and Spartan. I would say I would describe the contents there. It's like a desk and a big bay of windows. That's about it in the captain's ready room.
It's a bit weird.
It's a bit strange. And
because it's like a standing desk also. It's not like a desk.
Yeah. There's not a desk. It's not like there's no like knickknacks or like what we're used to seeing in a captain's ready room, like mementos or books or a fishbowl or something to remind them of home. Or if it's Enterprise, maybe they're watching water polo. That was a hashtag Enterprise dig. Anyway,
I'm with you.
That's where we meet Captain Gabriel Lorca, none other than Jason Isaacs, Lucius Malfoy himself. Well, I get very excited. I was delighted with this.
Lucius Malfoy.
Lucius Malfoy. And he's staring off into the stars, and he says something cryptic like, "No matter how deep in space you get, you can always see home. At least I always thought so." Which, whatever. What a weird thing. It's not what you'd expect a captain to say.
Which is maybe foreshadowing.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
No spoilers. Hit him with the spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Anyway, he's like, sorry about how dark it is. Ever since I got into this weird accident, my eyes can't deal with abrupt light changes. So it had the lights slowly come up, and he turns around, and he continues to be very weird and creepy, and doesn't really explain things. He's like, oh, when your shuttle, when we rescued it, I re-looked at your files and your court-martial, and gosh, it's just so great to have you on the ship. Also, would you like a fortune cookie? Yeah, so he's got a bunch of weird things going on, and she's like, why am I here? It's so weird that your shuttle picked me up. She doesn't, Michael knows something's going on. She doesn't really buy it. That this
she's
was
distrustful.
She's distrustful. She's a Vulcan. She's putting it together, and she's like, doesn't make sense that the ship, which already has got two of my former crewmates, it just happened to pick me up. She knows that her ship changed course mid-flight. So anyway, she knows something weird is happening, and so we know something weird is happening. She is thereafter sent to quarters, not to the brig. So she enters some very lovely, though still very Spartan quarters. There's got two twin beds. She lies down on one of the beds to stare at the ceiling, and
I love this. This is one of my favorite moments.
She turns the lights out. She's like, let me dwell in the darkness of my incarceration. And then the door opens up. Someone says lights in a bright and jovial voice. And we are introduced to the wonderful character of Sylvia Tilly, Cadet Sylvia Tilly. And she abruptly tries to make friends with this stranger in her room by telling Michael, you're in my bed. I don't know if we bring out our little theme song for Tilly. Is this the moment? Because Tilly becomes an important character. You know what? It's Tilly time.
It's Tilly time.
Tilly, don't be silly. Tilly, space is wide. Clearly it gets chilly. Tilly, it's your time.
Yes, Sylvia Tilly, who is the bright spot in all the madness that will happen throughout the rest of the series. She comes in. She's very idiosyncratic, a little
Socially
jumpy
awkward.
and excited.
Let's
She's
put it
very
that way.
awkward. She's like an awkward roommate on the first day of college who arrived early, set up their stuff, left. You lie down in what you think is a random bed. They show up and they go, hey, no, that's my bed. It's my hyperallergenic pillow, and I snore and drool because I'm allergic to polyester, and I overshare too much. And hey, what's your name? And oh, your name's Michael. I've never met a woman named Michael before. The only Michael I know is the mutineer Michael Burnham. You're not her, are you? Ha 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 ha. Oh dear. And then Tilly lies down, and then a very strange thing happens. The lights go dark, and a black alert is sounded ship-wide.
Yeah, we do have a black alert. Doesn't quite sound like that, but we do.
Yeah. Well, maybe our music department will whip something
We'll work on
together for future black alerts. And Michael has no idea what's happening, but like some water droplets appear, like floating in space, and then drop onto the desk. And that is all we really get to understand about that. She is picked up next morning by Saru, who is holding a bowl of blueberries. This episode had a lot of very strange, interesting things in it. And Saru is sort of like, come with me, I'll take you to engineering. He gives her a little bit of a rundown of the ship, that it can have, 300 discrete scientific missions going on at any given time. And so Michael's like, is this a science ship? And Saru's like, change of subject. Here, have a blueberry. They have an exchange outside of engineering where Saru basically says, Michael, I think you are a talented officer, but I think you're dangerous, and I can't wait for you to be off the ship. So... if something
and then Michael has this sort of apology moment as well.
She does, but she never says I'm sorry. She says, like, I saw what you did for Georgia's eulogy, and I just wanted to say ...
And does he not say sorry or apologies?
Yeah, Saru says,
he says
I'm sorry. And she goes, yeah.
Yeah. So he
could
leads
not,
her into that.
Yes, Shival could not say that she was sorry. Which is fine. Michael is still on the journey. We are brought into engineering, so let's say things are whipping by fast, and engineering is also sleek and dark blues and purples and interesting and not like anything we've ever seen from Star Trek before. And Tilly is there, and Michael says, I'm supposed to speak to Chief Engineer Stamets, and they say, well, he's in there in the science lab, and she's about to go, and they go, no, that's classified. And she goes, oh, no ships ever have classified science engineering labs. And they're like, well, this is the Discovery, so take a seat. So she goes walking around. I think Tilly tells her, you can't be here, we have assigned seats.
Yeah.
When she tries to take a module next to Tilly. And
again, it's that sort of college moment.
Totally. She's like, oh, we have assigned seats, you have to find
here.
another. You can't sit there. Anyways, Stamets comes out, and it is, hello, ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Rapp. Jason Isaacs and Anthony Rapp. I'm so excited for this show. Just so great. Anyway, Anthony
I love this
Rapp.
episode because we see all of these sort of principal characters sort of come
Mary
together
Wiseman
as one.
as Tilly,
Yep.
Isaacs as Lorca, and as Paul Stamets, chief engineer, Anthony Rapp, who does not take no crap from nobody.
Anthony Rapp takes no crap.
Anthony Rapp takes no crap. And he walks out and of the secure area, sees Michael and says, who are you? Michael says, oh, I'm Burnham or whatever. And he goes, I thought you'd be a Vulcan. She says, I'm not a Vulcan. He says, well, that's clear. She goes, well, I am a Vulcan. Well, I'm not a Vulcan. Well, I was raised on Vulcan. I'm a human, but I'm Vulcan. To which we get our first Stamets stinger. Stamets says to that, my Uncle Everett plays in a Beatles cover band. That hardly makes him John Lennon.
Ooh,
John Legend.
That stings.
Yeah, unfortunately. It stings to get sung by Stamets. That's not the only stinger he does in this, but I don't think we'll bring out each one. Anyway, a bunch of
It was the
weird,
first one. It was
the
important
first one. It's
first.
time to get ready to get some stingers from Stamets, because he does, as we said, he does not suffer fools or smart people. He doesn't suffer people. No one really knows what's going on in engineering. As a viewer, we don't really get it, and it seems like everything's classified. And Stamets gives her a thing and says, resolve this code for me.
Yeah, that's right, because he comes in and he sort of got this dust on his...
Oh, that's right. He's got some weird floaty dust particulate matter on his shoulder, which he wipes off. But we still are not sure what's happening at this point. He gives Michael some code. She works on it for what appears to be hours and hours. Comes over to him as he's talking to what appears to be a colleague, a friend, and they're saying very strange things about...
On the USS Glenn.
On the USS Glenn, he says, oh, yeah, we did some Spirian tests, and was there a bloom, something, and we did this amount of displacement, and tonight we're going to go for Spirian 900 displacement, which Stamets says, that's impossible. And he says, oh, no, I've worked out the kinks. I got a whole thing worked out. It's going to be great. And then Michael walks over and appears to interrupt their private conversation, to which Stamets says, I hate lurkers. And Michael says, well, look, I looked at your code. At first I thought it was quantum physics, and then it seemed like microbiology. So which is it? And whatever it is, this code is weird. And he goes, great, and get out of here. So no one's really given Michael any answers. So she goes back to her room. Oh yes, that's right. There's like a breath, like instead of a handprint thing, there's like a breath scanner to get into the secret science place.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know how I feel about the science of that. It's
I
like
don't
if,
either, because I'm like, what if you know, you've had your coffee,
yeah,
or you're like, oh crap, I've got to do something in the science lab before I come
right,
back and brush my teeth. Like, what
yeah.
happens then?
Well, I'm assuming because I fix things in my head that I don't agree with in science fiction that your saliva, your
I
yeah,
thought that
and they
too.
can check your DNA from that or something. But it just seems weird because if I had just had like tacos and a chocolate milkshake, I feel like it wouldn't work on that thing. But
Same.
whatever. So she goes back to her bedroom, and Tilly is there snoring and drooling. And Michael takes a little sample of drool on a towel and finds an aerosol container and sneaks back into engineering and opens that door using Tilly's drool and walks in, and we see a bunch of like flowers.
It looks like some sort of foresty type thing.
kind
This
of
artificial forest.
It's like kind of glowing, but also seems sort of natural. So
Looks
I
like
don't
an
know.
enchanted forest.
it seems like an enchanted forest. Hey, now,
Yeah, we are.
don't get ahead of me.
Sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize for that. I fell back. Anyway, next thing we know, Lorca gets a surprise message that's classified, and he walks in engineering, and everyone's there, and he says the USS Glenn, which we just learned about in the 2 or 3 scenes before, experienced some sort of critical accident, and the whole crew was, quote, lost. And at first I was like, I wonder, did the ship blow up? But he goes, no, we're going to go find the ship. Stamets says, was there a bloom failure? And no one really, we don't know what's going on there. A little bit of an argument between Stamets and Lorca. It seems like Lorca's really a sort of a warmonger in Stamets' eyes, and Stamets is sort of an idealistic, super science, self-obsessed genius in Lorca's eyes. And Lorca has some great, like, this is war, like a this is Sparta moment. Anyway, he's like, put a team together. You're going over there, and you're going to get all the stuff from their experiment to bring back here. We're going to salvage. And so he says, hey, take Burnham with you. And then flash cut to the shuttle.
Well, I don't want to take Burnham with me. And then there's this
Yeah.
whole...
He's like,
And then he says to
that's-
Saru,
please.
he says to Saru, Mr. First Officer Saru, what is your assessment of Michael Burnham? And he says, mutiny aside, she is the finest Starfleet officer I have ever come across.
Mm-hmm. And
And Lorca...
fact, he says
what was it?
smartest.
Smartest, thank
Yeah.
you. And Lorca looks at Stamets and goes, and he knows you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Lorca has a
He
stinger.
has his own
That's
stinger.
right. Boom. Oh, we're just falling into wonderful family dynamics here on the USS Discovery. So they get into the shuttle, the Distal 1, and they are flying to the USS Glenn, which is sort of dead in space. There's some conversation where Michael's just trying to figure out what's going on here. So that's why she
Yep.
snuck into the thing, and she's kind of questioning Stamets as they're coming into the ship, and she's like, what's the deal? Is it biology? Is it physics? And Stamets is like, I can't believe you think there's a difference. It's physics as biology. Something about spores and interconnected blah blah blahs and yada yadas, and it's great fun. I don't want to spoil it. So they go to the Glen, and I wrote ... bodies ripped all apart. It is a horror show on the Glen, on the USS Glen. Is it not?
It is a horror show. We
The
don't know
bodies-
what's happened.
They're
There
like
are bodies
distorted,
everywhere.
twisted, and like
Yep.
like torsion and stuff like that. And it's very, actually, I was thinking it's like very Alien, because they are walking down these darkened halls because there's no power on the ship, and they're like looking with their lights and stuff, and they're finding all the dead crew people, and then they come across dead Klingons who look like they've been ripped apart, but not in the weird, like grotesque way as the crew. So
Yes.
Michael posits that these people must have come after the ship was dead in the air and attempted to raid it, and something must have attacked them. At that moment, Cadet Tilly says, "You there in the shadows, show yourself." and a lone Klingon comes out into the light, shushes, and then is ripped back by a huge, monstrous beast. Mm-hmm. To which Michael
But I
says,
love that. Sorry, I was going to say, I love that moment
please.
where Commander Landry
"Oh
says,
yes,"
is he shushing us?
and he was. And it was,
He was?
and it's too bad you didn't listen sooner,
It's too late.
because he could have said like, "Hey, there's a monster on board," but they found out when it ate him or whatever, and then they run. The monster's running after them. They managed to get to the bridge. They're trying to take all the data cores, or they get to engineering, and they take all the data and stuff, and they find stuff in the weird chamber that also exists on the Discovery that Michael was looking at, but we don't really know what the purpose is. And they've got the door closed where the beast is trying to break through, and then there's another door to get them back out to the shuttle bay that they can't open because there's no power. So Landry is doing a focused phase rifle on it, but they're not going to get it open in time. And then Michael says, "Throw me a phaser," and then Landry says, "No phaser for the mutineer." And Tilly says, "You can't kill it." And Michael says, "I'm not trying to kill it. I'm just going to piss it off." So when it comes through the doors, after Stamets throws her a phaser, she shoots it 3 or 4 times and says, "Hey." And then the beast turns towards her, and she literally says, "Shit, it worked," and it starts running, and the beast runs after her, distracting it so that the crew, the party can get back to the ship. She is running through Jeffrey's tubes, and the creature is running after her. And I think they're trying to, she's trying to distract it and also get back to the ship. She's quoting Alice in Wonderland as she is running through these terrifyingly tiny tubes.
Terrifyingly?
Terrifying. She is terrifyingly running through these terrifying tubes. Yes. Which will, I guess maybe we can, is that going to be in quotable moments, or should I quote it now? No, because it's really a quote
We
from
have lots
Lewis
of quotable
Carroll,
moments.
right?
Yeah.
Anyway, the quote
was
that I
gonna-
like the most, sorry, yeah, not
I
Lewis
was
Carroll.
going to ask,
What?
when Michael says, "Oh shit, it worked," is
Yeah.
that the first cuss word that we
I
have?
think that it was.
Not in just the episode, but in
the series.
the series so far. Yep.
Yeah. And essentially in Star Trek so far, so if I'm not mistaken. Unless
Correct.
there's a movie with some cussing.
Probably a movie.
I doubt they used...
I feel like Chris Pine would have said it at some
Oh,
point.
totally. Yeah, I'm sure
You
there
know?
was something gritty.
Hmm.
Maybe Eric Bana. Okay. Don't get me started on those. I love them and hate them. I love them and hate them, and I hate to love them, and I love to hate them.
Breathe. Just
Okay,
breathe through
all
it,
right.
Aki.
Woosah. She says as she's come to like a thing, and she blows a hole in the floor, and we find out that she's waiting to like just leap down into the ship, but the beast is coming after her. She's quoting Alice in Wonderland. She says she was now only 10 inches high. Her face had lightly brightened up. She was now the right size to go through the little door into that lovely garden. And just at that moment, the ship shows up. She jumps down. And she does an awesome superhero landing. Boom! Down on the knee, 3-point.
Go!
And she says, "Go!" Yeah. And they fly away. So that's cool.
It was almost like such a Kirk moment.
It was very Kirk-like. It was so badass.
Yeah.
But it also was so Michael, because even though she is dubious of the reasons for anything happening to her at this moment, she still puts her life on the line to save these strangers,
Yeah.
of whom only Tilly is sort of likes her. The other two are like outright dislike.
Oh, that's
her
right. Because
altogether.
on the shuttle over to the USS Glenn,
Yeah.
Tilly gives her an apology and says, "I'm sorry, I didn't want you to sit next to me. I just want to make a good impression. I'm sorry."
That's right. Yeah, that's
It's quite
true.
cute.
It's cute. And then I think they have a discussion a little later where, oh yeah, much later. So I won't give that up right now. We get back to the bridge. Michael is escorted into the ready room. Lorca is at his weirdo standing desk, and they have a conversation. It's apparent through the like conversation that the prisoner ship is repaired and it's about to take off, and Saru's like, "I hope you're on that ship." And she's like, "I won't be here much longer." And then Lorca, of course, says, "I want to offer you a position on this crew permanently," to which Michael says, "I have to decline." Two great quotes, which we'll quote later. But Lorca takes her by the hand and does a point-to-point transport down to engineering. He welcomes her into the weird, like, shower. It looks like a fancy hotel shower. It's like a glass door, glass world. And he takes a tube of what we can only assume is some of that weird material from the science lab.
The
puts
dust
it in
thing
the
that was
machine.
on
Yeah, the dust thing.
Stamets'
that was on
shoulder, yeah.
Stamets. It says, by the interconnectedness of these microcellular things, we're able to connect the entire universe together, and you can be anywhere instantly. And what we're building here is not a biological weapon, which is what Michael was concerned that he was asking her help with. He was like, we're trying to build a new way to fly, where we can be instantly here or there, and that will help us win this war against the Klingons.
Yeah.
And by, he's able to convince Michael that she should stay, and finally give her a fortune cookie, which was important to.
Because he has a bowl of fortune cookies on his desk.
He loves his fortune cookies. That's right. Yes.
Incidentally, there is a tribble. There is a tribble on his desk.
Well, the tribble. I went back to do that to take a look at that. That's not his desk, right? That's the lab from the last scene, which we're about to get to.
Oh, is it? I thought that
'Cause-
was because that was like a little shop of horrors in the last scene. I was sure this was the tribble was on the desk next to, or like on the opposite
Gosh.
side from the fortune cookies.
I can't believe we're fighting
Because it was
like
such
this in
an
front
odd.
of everybody.
I know.
No,
I'm so we shouldn't
I
do
will.
this.
I was probably too busy trying to write down words. You're probably right, but I will check.
Okay.
Our
We'll post a correction if we're wrong.
Yes, there's two final scenes. The second to last one, the penultimate one, is Michael and Tilly in their room, and Tilly asks Michael to help her become a better Starfleet officer, and Michael quotes more Alice in Wonderland to Tilly because Tilly sees her pulling the actual book out of her bag, and the quote is very germane to, I think, the argument for the entirety of the Star Trek Discovery sort of plot line. Is that you know, I think, I don't want to get into a whole thing, but you sort of have to open yourself up to the idea that everything is not quite what it is, and sometimes it is in fact the opposite thereof, and that will bear fruit. The quote from Alice in Wonderland, I only wrote part of it down, but it's essentially the one about up and down and left and right and lost and found. Did you write
Pretty
it down?
much. I did not. I wrote everything else but it was something like up is down and down is up, and that
Oh,
was as
boy.
much as I got.
I really
yeah.
failed. I really failed the nerds today, but I ran out of space on my paper. So that's that scene. And then the final scene is Lorca in the lab with Landry, and he says, like, is our guest tucked in, or, you know, on board?
Settled
and she's,
in.
Yeah, settled in. She says snug and tight, and he says, great, then we can.
Well, she says snug as a bug in a rug.
Yes, she does say snug as a bug in a rug. And we assume they're referring to Michael. But I think we realize right thereafter that he's talking, because he walks up to a sort of darkened room, touches what you think is an open thing, but it's actually a blue force field, and says, "Here, kitty, kitty." And the beast from the USS Glenn, which has been blown up with torpedoes, rises up and roars at the screen and then huddles back. And that is the end of episode 3 of season 1 of Star
is
Trek
the
Discovery.
end.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shall we move on now to stats? Don't have a lot of stats for this episode, but
Set phasers to stats.
pew 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 pew.
Pew, 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 pew.
We have the one black alert.
Yep.
There were no red shirts. And I did notice that Landry says set phasers to kill when
She
they're running
does
from
say
the
set
beast.
phasers
Yeah.
to kill.
So everything about this Star Trek series is so different from everything else.
There's no stun. It's like, fuck
Yeah.
this thing.
Set phasers to kill. If I was in Starfleet, I'd be like, what? We never do that. I don't know what setting that is. So those are the only stats I can think of.
We didn't go to. Well, we didn't go to warp that we were aware of. There was a black alert, so there
Yeah.
was sort of a warp,
But we don't
weren't.
really know.
We don't really know.
Yeah.
Oh, was that a? Did we have a?
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry.
Spoiler alert.
We're
He
getting
sort of
into
makes
that.
it clear in that final scene with Michael that they're using that drive to instantly move through the universe. But we don't get more explanation on that until further in.
All right.
So, you know what to do.
I do. Quotable moments.
Oh boy. All right. Do you have any quotes you'd like to any
Let's
quotes
see.
you'd like to get
Any
out of the way?
quotable moments. I'm able to reproduce that alarmingly well.
Yeah, you are.
Let's see. I'm trying to decide if I should tell you, you're in my bed. I quite like that one.
That was very good.
It was just the way she delivered it was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'll call you Mickey. And Michael was like, no, you won't. Just
Until he goes, no,
deadpan.
I won't.
No, I won't. Okay, fine.
Oh, boy.
Actually, I did have another one that Michael said. I think it,
Please.
and I may, because I didn't pause. I just went straight through. I think it was by the principles of the United Federation of Planets I live, and by them I will almost certainly die.
I think you wrote that down absolutely correctly.
Did I? Go me.
Yeah, I'm the one that's always going back to write things down, but I think you nailed that
I
one.
was scribbling away.
Yes.
But those were my two.
Well, I shall hit you with Saru's message over the bowl of blueberries before engineering. He says to Michael, Captain Lorca is a man who does not fear things that normal people fear, but I do. And you are someone to fear, Michael Burnham. So we get a lot of clues about Lorca, about Saru, and about Michael in that one statement. And then I was very fond of how Lorca recruits Michael to get her to stay. He says to her at the very end, your assumption that the Klingons were waiting in ambush at the binary stars was predictive. You chose to do the right thing over and above what was sanctioned, even at great cost to yourself. That is the kind of thinking that wins wars. The kind of thinking I need next to me. Universal law is for lackeys. Context is for kings. From which we
There
get
it is.
the title
Beautifully
of this episode.
delivered.
It was beautiful. Thank you. Oh, you're talking
Beautifully
about-
delivered by Jason Isaacs.
Yeah, he did a great job. I did. I sounded like a nerd, but I'm still very excited. I was like, "Ooh, that's good." I want to have a reason to say that to somebody. I want to be like, "Hey, universal law is for lackeys. Context is for kings." But just say that to the guy that runs my local bodega for some reason. I don't know why. I don't think he would appreciate that very much. Okay. All right, so I guess we should.
I agree.
Start
I think
to
it's
wrap
time
up. Yeah.
for let's do it.
Next
So-
time on Set Phasers.
Next time on Set Phasers, we shall see how well the crew deals with Michael becoming a permanent part of it, and how well she integrates into the crew. And the episode is entitled "The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry." So I'm sure it'll be a lighthearted romp through space.
A light-hearted romp.
A lighthearted romp through space. Okay, so listen, thank you very much for joining us. If you enjoyed the program, you can catch us every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live, or as a podcast every Monday, wherever podcasts come from. So please subscribe.
Please do subscribe. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Set Phasers Podcast. Feel free to follow us and join in the conversation of all things Trek.
Yes, and if you would like to support us on our continuing mission to discover whatever Discovery has in store, we'd only be delighted. You can patronize us, we can take it, by going to patreon.com/setphasers.
Until next time, I'm Steph Mans.
And I'm Aki Burmese, and this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program.